Question.
And the way it's maintained that there isn't actually time or space as such, the way we consider them. Time I've found easier to grok, or lack thereof, because this moment is this moment. Also, the modern day teachings like Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, really focus on that one.
But what about causality? Can you have causality without time?
Well,
Okay, so go ahead. Go with the question. Just
yeah.
don't dismiss it so quickly is all I'm saying. But keep going.
Right.
So
But
time and
the
space, yes, they are products.
the contention that space is not actual. Do you have
That's not a contention. That's a demonstrable fact.
that one is hard to that one's harder to grok for me.
Well, you've had a dream, have you not? That you remember?
Yes.
And the dream occurred in space, did it not?
Sure, yeah.
But what was that space real? Was it real or was it imaginary?
Yeah, ostensibly it was smaller than an atom or a thought. Or bigger also, it felt bigger, as big as
But the
life.
question is, was it real or imaginary? Imagined.
Yeah, imagine.
Okay, so you know your brain can imagine space,
Yes.
and it does.
Yes.
What's the question? Remember the story of was it? Wasn't there a rabbit in Greece that was racing a turtle, and the rabbit would go. In mathematics, they deal with things like this, but what's the problem with space? Tell me.
So the problem with space is experientially, it's easy to say time, like past and future. I can't like grab onto.
You think you can grab onto the present?
It's not that I can grab onto. It's that Nisargadatta Maharaj puts this more nicely. There's like a stamp on the present that makes it feel quite different from past or future.
Okay, fair enough.
Like, and what as past and future ends up being.
Where is here now? Speaking of
Where?
space, where is here now?
Where is it?
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Is there a problem?
No.
Because it's nowhere also, right?
No. So
There is no location, right? You can't. If you had to have a location, you must have a point of reference. And didn't Einstein demonstrate that first of all, time and space in his worldview, this is the beginning of the last century. Time and space were the same thing, right? Time, space, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how we measure time, is with space. And how we measure space is with time. So, but these are contemplations. These are really beautiful meditations, right? Meditation on relativity. And so it's important to have some, a basic grasp of the, what is it? The special relativity.
Yeah, I'd like to look more into that then.
Beautiful. That's perfect. That's perfect. So this one's not disputed, I don't think, by anybody. Now they're having to give up time, and now we're getting somewhere scientifically. Because we've considered ourselves enlightened, right? But we've lost our way. And what we're beginning to see is that our entire physics, I mean, not the entire thing, but much of the foundational physics is falling apart with two things. One is, the main one would be Schrödinger, quantum theory, quantum effects, and also in philosophy we have, what's his name? Gödel.
Gödel. Oh.
Yeah. And so these are not mystical questions. These are scientific questions and philosophical questions and empirical questions that can be answered by and they must be answered by each person, because otherwise you're going to believe me that time's not real or actual, and neither is space. That would be a terrible thing if you were to adopt that belief because somebody said it. That's no good. That will not increase any. See, that's why teachers who care don't just give you an answer, because they know that you will not develop the capacity unless you have to do it yourself. And that's the function of these exercises, many of them. And so people want to jump over those, and of course then most of the time is spent saying, hey, you got to do the work, folks. You got to do the work for yourself. The general rule, I mean, in the text I'm reading, the general rule is 30 years after awakening before you get closer to where you need to get. And then you go from there.
What does that even mean?
Think about it. It's irrelevant to most, it's irrelevant, and it discourages many people, so I don't want to belabor it. There's nobody here to belabor it to.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But I think just read the 10 stages. I mean, it's clear. The 10 stages being the core text of the Avatamsaka or Flower Ornament Scripture for those who are joining us.
Yeah, question about that then.
Mm-hmm.
For those who have done a first read of the Flower Ornament Scripture,
mm-hmm.
Could then going to specific books, depending on where they're at, be helpful, or is it advised? It depends on the person.
I wouldn't recommend that, because the thing is, we like what we know, we like what we understand, and so one of the functions of this book is to wake a person up to the potentiality here, the possibility, and not just the possibility, the realized possibility. That's conveyable with words. It's a remarkable text, psychoactive, and so I would recommend against that.
Okay.
I occasionally will take, so the translator did not like that at all, and I understand why. It's for a functional reason. Those things were all put together, but its reading has gone so out of fashion that there's a crisis. And so I try and introduce people to just little fragments of it so they can see what's there. Most people have never even heard of Huayan Buddhism, right? Mm-hmm. And on which Chan is based, on which Zen, from which Zen comes. And this root text for Chan, for Zen, for even Tibet, everybody uses this. All the thoughtful Buddhists use this routinely. So and for a good reason. So that's why I want to introduce it to people who might not have heard of it.
You told me that to provide a foundation, it suggested that it's read 3 times in the Hawaiian tradition.
Not just Huayan.
Oh,
I'm still reading it, and I've, read it 3 times, and your attitude towards it changes, and then you realize what it is. It takes a while, but see, people get discouraged because the idea, they see a book that size, they go, oh my God, I couldn't read that. That's too long. I mean, they'll say that about a 120-page book.
Yeah.
Okay, so something along those lines. Follow up?
Yeah. I guess it's related to Avatamsaka to some extent. Sutra or other things bring about sometimes trance-like states. The way getting stuck in that is called, I forget what anyam. I think in Buddhism they call it anyam, or in Dzogchen.
I don't speak Tibetan nor Sanskrit, so I'm not going to be no good.
Yeah, but they have a method to get out of these things. So people might get stuck in a trance, or they might get stuck in a blissful state, stuff like that. Do you recommend this path thing that they do, or? or do you just let it go?
If you keep reading if you keep reading the sutra, it will take care of itself. I mean, it's literally, they punctuate it, with prose, poetry, trance-inducing effects, right? And the thing is very sophisticated, as is the translation. We are so lucky to have it. It could be lost in English anyway. It didn't even appear till 1986, right? So yeah, the sutra will take care of that. That's not a problem. I wish more people would get into it, YN trance. That'd be great.
Could I ask a couple of questions about logistics of reading it, or would that be complicating things?
No, go ahead. That's good.
One, you've mentioned that you could read it 20, 30 minutes a day, but you've also said that...
20 minutes a day, 4 months, and you're done.
Okay. Second question. Reading it for longer periods of time.
Great.
Third question.
I read it nonstop when I first got it. I mean, I read as long as I could in a day without going.
Yeah.
And as an intro, that's good. It's the main thing is to get your mind exposed to the possibility. There's a whole world out there that people have no idea of, and they walk around in their ignorance, not knowing about this. And this is one of the most precious things that mankind has ever produced. Right. So that's a pity. And that's a cause for sorrow of sorts. Go ahead.
There's a lot of imagery, obviously, in the sutra. And are you meant to try to visualize what's written there as you're reading it?
Yes.
Because it's almost... Okay, so...
Yes, it uses so you read it out loud and you hear it. You also you feel the vibrations in your chest. And as you visualize, then you have the visual system, right? So you're using all the modalities. And then there's taste as well. And there's not taste and sound and smells. And it's just everything you got. Definitely.
So I, for example, I'll read it and then I'll read something like a cloud of spheres of jewels of flames. And I'll be like, what?
Yeah. Some wise guy is going to hook that thing up to an AI. Right? To a DALL-E 4 or 5 or 3 even. And ask it to illustrate some of these things. And it's going to be very, very remarkable.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. Wow. I find now,
that's a misuse of the sutra, right? For now, right?
Yeah.
And there'll be something only people will play. People did it already. I remember people when it first came out, people wanted to write. Yeah, somebody wanted to illustrate it manually.
Good luck.
Yeah, so lots of things. It will withstand abuse like that by individuals or even groups, But what's tragic is the neglect of it, I think.
Yeah.
And there's so much. See, what's happened is people have taken confusion for mysticism or something. They've taken, especially in Zen, although in other areas too, they take a teacher who himself is not in a position to be teaching about this stuff because he hasn't even awoken yet, starts using all this very, very, imitation of Zen masters. And that's one of the reasons I read what I read in a previous little video. These things are gorgeously constructed, and they're not like the Zen koan is a perfect example. They just kind of go like, oh, wow, that's so far out, man. Whoa. Boy, it just blew my mind, man. Whoa. And then, that's missing the whole point. These things are beautifully structured. The ghosts and the appearance, and all of that is gorgeous. And people come and say, well, hey, I don't understand emptiness. Help me understand emptiness. Boom, there it is. And more. But if somebody does it for you, then you vitiate the whole thing, and it no longer serves any function at all. It's like a cartoon now. It might as well be an entertainment, and this happens quite a bit, where all the ritual and things like that. That's very recent. The obsessive rituals and if you dress just right and you have everything just and You got your thumbs and your fingers just right, and you're sitting in a full lotus, not a half lotus, it's a full lotus. What does that have to do with enlightenment? Absolutely nothing. And yet people get trapped in these things all the time. Now, if you're part of a larger cultural thing, like for example with the Tibetan Buddhists, they understand all this. And they're working on the development of the whole person. And they understand the paramitas and the necessary for correcting character flaws and getting rid of certain neuroses and antidotes for obsession or laziness or everything in between and so on and so forth. But that's very different than some guy who says, you know, my degree in marketing is not serving me very well, so maybe I should just teach Zen, right? And you see stuff like this all the time. And so now there are certainly illuminates that are marketing execs, I'm sure. I don't know any, but you know. But I'm saying that's a minimum requirement for a teacher of Zen, and yet that requirement is ignored routinely. In the United States anyway. And that's a danger to the student, because you can waste 20 years of your life following some donkey.
What are the ostensible traditions in the West? Zen seems to be like the biggest one that I've seen.
I don't know. I don't keep up with it. And there was a time, I think it was in the 80s, when someone said, hey, we should have a Buddhist magazine, Tricycle. And we'll take advertising and we'll sell things and we'll we'll invite people to publish their articles, you know, and it was a whole big, you know, marketing deal. Had nothing to do with understanding. It was a style. And that's not new. That happened in the 14th century. That happened in the 10th century. Huang Po came out. I mean, he was basically, you know, these things were institutionalized by the state, right? Confucianism and Zen, or Chan in China, or Zen in Japan. The shoguns were the ones administering the stuff, right? So it was completely trashed. And so then you have, then you get to kind of very, very powerful, you know, boom, you know, hit you over the head kind of teachers like this guy. And then people take that and they think it's a joke, but it's not a joke. It was a way of addressing problems at the time. Okay, and so can you see how important this information is to get out there, especially for the AI? Because otherwise, it will think that the false is the true. And I'm no Zenist, right? So I have no pony in this show. I'm not any of these things. I'm not even Buddhist. Or whatever. I'm not even here in that way. So that's not what I'm for. Follow up.
No, that's it for that.